Our next talk will be given by Mashhoor Al Dubayan, who is a user experience specialist at Elm Information Security.
My name is Mashhoor Al Dubayan. I'm a user experience specialist. I work at Al Ilm, Information Security in Saudi Arabia. I just make the applications easier to use. But I just want to tell you a small story before I start. Before I used to be a user experience specialist, I used to be a developer, just doing development, nothing else. So like any typical developer, I used to just steal stuff from a different website. This works well on Facebook. Let me just implement it. I'll do it. This works well on Yahoo. I'll take it and I'll put it on my website. And focus also on the technical details a lot. Like I'll use this framework. I'll put the standards compliant badge on the website so it will impress the visitors. And do all this stuff. I thought it was fascinating because I was doing it, and I was so involved in the product that I thought everyone should use it. But what happened is that everyone kept sending me questions about very obvious things like, why don't you put feature X on the site? But it was already there. Why are you asking me to include it? Just find it. So I got a lot of questions from like this nature. So I had the impression about people that, and I'm serious about this, I thought they were like impatient, stupid, and lazy. So seriously, I thought no one understands what I'm doing. And I think many developers can relate to this. And maybe we blame Arabs. Arabs don't understand this. Arabs don't understand that. When are they gonna, become better and try to understand my product? So I kept blaming them. I have two codes I used to overuse. I think developers use them a lot as well. I used to say they're not as smart enough to be using my application in the first place. So that's one excuse. So just to discard them. And another one would be if they can't figure out how X works, then they're not my target audience. I think that's also a lot of people use this. So I used it just as an excuse. I wasted my time just blaming other people. I'm good, they're not, and they're not my target audience. So until I read these two books, I read this one first, Defensive Design for the Web. I had no idea why. I wasn't convinced that usability and user experience is worth it. So that led me to the other book, which is Don't Make Me Think. The other book made me realize that people don't really see things the way we see them. We're so involved in the product, so they don't see what we see. We know every single detail. They don't. So it's we need to know how to communicate things to them, how to make things easier to use. A second. So yeah, I learned from them that they are impatient, but for good reasons. They have a lot of things to do on the web. Maybe they were chatting when they received the link to your site. They don't really want to spend time learning. They just want to check out your site and go back to the chat session. So they were impatient. They were lazy too, but for good reasons as well. They don't want to try to learn every single site they visit on the internet. But they weren't stupid. Some of them were, but most of them weren't. I was the one who was stupid, actually. So yeah, we see technical things really good, but we think that's really awesome. People should give it a chance, but they think like, oh, what the hell is this? So they just don't think it's really ugly. So I decided to learn more about this user experience thing and try to fix the application. But where should I start? Should I try to do like many developers do? Make this thing Web 2.0-ish. But what is Web 2.0? What should I do? Should I focus on the graphics? Should I focus on the performance? So to answer my question, I found something interesting that maybe answer this. Something called Design Hierarchy of Needs. I found it online in one of the articles. It summarizes what I'm trying to do. It says that in order for the design to be a really good design, first it needs to fulfill all the layers from bottom up. First it has to be functional. If it promises something, it needs to do it. If it says it's an MP3 player, it needs to be play MP3s and stuff. Second thing, it needs to be reliable. So it needs to play songs, consistently. Whether it's an app or it's a website, it doesn't have to be an MP3 player. So it needs to first it needs to do all the features, and then it needs to be reliable. Do them consistently well. And then there's the third thing, usability. The features has not only to be functional and reliable, but they have to be usable as well. So you can't skip to making things easy when your solution doesn't work well reliably, or the functionality isn't there. And there's another layer, which is proficiency. Your product doesn't only allow them to use the feature, it empowers them to do more. For example, it suggests music they might like. It warns them about things that might harm them. It gives them recommendations. It empowers them to do more than that. And then there's creativity. So creativity is all the aesthetic beauty of the site, the graphics and all the pretty stuff. unfortunately, so many startups, especially Arabic startups, jump to the first one and try to make the product really beautiful. But it turns out that it's not reliable and it's not usable, so it doesn't click with people. So I think one company that does all of this is Apple, so it does it in all the products. People think it's about the design only, but it's not the design. They do it all well. So, and this is not a rule, by the way. It's just I just wanted to communicate the idea I had. So why do aesthetics matter? Some people think, okay, I'll just make it usable. I don't care about aesthetics. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not, why should I make it pretty in the first place? The answer is you have to make it pretty. You don't have to make it pretty, actually. But if you want to emotionally connect with people, if you want people to love your product, not just use it, then you have to make it aesthetically beautiful after fulfilling all the previous layers. So yeah, if it's usable, then yeah, cool. It's simple. I can use it. But if it's usable, functional, reliable, and aesthetically beautiful, people will fall in love with it, will start to evangelize it, will start to annoying users of competitors and do free marketing for you. And that's the reason why I now play with this version of Hangman and my iPhone instead of this version, even though they're both the same, exactly the same game and using the same mechanics. But this one, being aesthetically beautiful, makes the game much more fun for me. So I just play that one. I ignored this one. And Taz ads too, so I don't like it. So why bother with all of this? Some people, I remember I worked once with a developer who said, why are you trying to spoil the users? Why should you care about this? He's not my son or something. I don't care about him. He just, let's just make something simple. And I know he didn't actually even care about simplicity. He just wanted to release the product. So why care? It's not about spoiling the user. It's about reducing development costs. Development costs will go down because you won't be spending so much money developing things that user don't want, or maybe overdeveloping some features. Let's do this in a very flashy way, but users don't need flashy ways. They just need something that works for them. So this will reduce development costs, along with other benefits that will reduce development costs. Also, support costs will go down. No more people asking, how do I reset my password? How do I register? So you can reduce a lot of requests from the people. And training costs go down. This is mainly if you're a company and providing products to other companies and you have to train them. You won't have, I know one company, for example, provides 2 products, and they're very similar products, yet it does separate training for each of them because each of them has a developer that works in a different way and has a different vision, and it just screws things up. So this will reduce training costs if you make the application explain itself implicitly. So that's another thing. And then customer loyalty will go up. You'll get free marketing. You'll get more awareness, and people will love your product. One case that shows these points is the redesign of breastcancer.org. I wished I could publish some of the statistics of products I worked on, but unfortunately all the founders refused to talk about them publicly. So I just got this one that was publicly available, which was the redesign of breastcancer.com. After the redesign, which focused on usability, they got the following results. First, the site traffic increased 117%. Also, new memberships increased 41%. Time taken to register reduced to 53%. Monthly help desk cost was greatly reduced as well. So they got the return on investment was extremely high. And that's just one example. I think it makes sense that making things easier to use, it just saves you money and generates you even more money. So it's all about money. It's not about just spoiling the user. So if you're a developer, you can see that, you can say, for example, it's good user experience. It's like clean, manageable code. If you had a clean, manageable, modular code, it's going to be easier to use, easier to develop, easier to maintain. But if you don't have a good user experience in the interface of the application, it's going to be hard to manage, hard to develop, and just the same. So what can you do about it? I want to share some tips that you can use right after you leave. You can use them right now to improve the user experience of your applications, whether it's a phone, whether it's a website or anything else. First, track and analyze user behavior. Use a solution to track the statistics of your application. I'm surprised that many developers don't do that, actually. They don't track the visitors. Or maybe they install the Google Analytics here, for example, and they just watch the number of visitors. They don't see how what time do they visitor visit, what browser do they use, track all their behavior. So that's one thing. And I also use a small trick. Let me show you here. You can add an additional, let's say, for example, our ArabNet site has this contact us link on the blog page. They want to track how many people come through the blog page, not from any other page. So they just add a variable to the link in the HTML code, and then Google Analytics will start showing you the arabnet.com/contact us and arabnet.com/contact us/ref equals blog as two different pages. This way you can track that which people are coming from which page and so on. Another solution is Crazy Egg. This is an amazing solution I've been using recently. It shows you a heat map of where a user clicks on your website, whether it's a link or not, any place they click. So you get to see, you get a lot of insights from this. You get to see where people click. Sometimes they click on something they thought it's a link, but it's not. So you get to see things in action and fix them. It generates other interesting reports. So, but this one is the one mainly I use, and it makes me fix a lot of issues in the products I work on. Another thing, design smart design patterns. If you use design patterns on the code, in coding, use it as well in layout. This is, for example, Yahoo Design Pattern Library. They have a lot of design patterns. They have solutions, for example, if you want to use tabs in your product. This page shows you what problems do tabs solve, when to use tabs, what's the solution, how to implement tabs perfectly. So if you want to implement anything in your design, try to look first in UI patterns or Yahoo Design Pattern Library or any of the other similar websites to see if the thing you're trying to implement, like you're doing it well, not just trying to copy things from because it worked on Facebook. If it works on Facebook, it doesn't mean it's going to work on your website. It's a different technology, different message, it's a different audience. So can try to make sure first and stick to the rules, or try to stick to the rules as much as possible. Another thing, test your app. Just let someone else come and use it next to you. Give them some task. Don't help them. Whether it's a mobile app, a web app, just let them sit next to you and tell them to do some of the key tasks in the app. Register, do this, rate something, whatever your app needs. Let them do it in front of you. Don't help them. Let them just finish the tasks or give up. Note down their observations. Your observations. Don't take their suggestions if they think, oh, I didn't find this page because I didn't like this, how this link looks, so, or whatever, Just write down what you observe and try to fix it. You'll notice a lot of issues that you didn't think that even exist. So if you have to do only one thing from these tips, this is the most important one. So that's one thing. Another thing is avoid instructions. Developers love instructions. They think that people actually read. No one reads. I don't think anyone in this room read any documentation for Facebook, for example. Or no one reads these stuff. So avoid any kind of instructions. Just use small tips. Sometimes you can design elements in a way that implicitly show users how to use them. That's a bit advanced. But for now, just use tips and small tips just to show users how to use your application. Design for different contexts. This is for mobile apps specifically. You have to think of how your users use your app, in which context, so you can decide for them. For example, they could be using their mobile phone in one hand and playing with something else with the other hand. You know what I'm talking about, guys, right? Maybe their gaming console, for example. So that's one context. They could, for example, if it's an app for recipes, they could be cooking with the other hand. So you have to take that into consideration. For example, if you're talking about the recipes app, don't let them pinch and zoom and stuff if they have to cook at the same time and refer to the app. So you have to take context into consideration. So the tips basically are track user behavior, use design patterns, test your app, avoid instructions, and design for different contexts. Just do these stuff, and I assure you that the user experience will be enhanced so much in your apps that you'll start seeing it from the numbers of your website. Assuming your website is good, I can't promise you anything. So yeah, that'll all be good UX, but good UX is not limited to the UI. UX is, by the way, it means user experience. User experience is also heavily influenced by the content, by the support, by the company. It's influenced by many things outside the scope of the user interface. So it's not about the interface alone. Also, if there's one book you need to read, it needs to be this book. Doesn't matter, you're a manager, you're a designer, you're a developer. It's a very short book. I think it's 100 pages maybe. It's full of comics. It's fun to read. It's not formal, so it has a lot of stuff that you can use to improve your products. It's mainly about websites and web applications, but I think it will be, it will change the way you think about how people use your products. Also, my personal blog is Interface Fix. It's a specialized blog in usability and user interface. It's in Arabic. It has more than, I think, 100 articles in this field, so you can use it. Maybe send some of the topics to someone who doesn't understand English if he can't read that book or doesn't want to. .com, just add .com. I forgot to add the .com at the end. So yeah, and if you'd like me to just provide you with tips specific to your application, you could email me at any time to at mashhoor@interfacefix.com. I'll just send you some tips to, specific to your application so that you can start developing it and making it simple to use and, provide a pleasurable user experience. So that's all. Any questions?
Rafi Chilingirian from Arabia GIS. I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you agree that the user experience in the Arab world is not very much important? And my next question, and what can we do to make it more, I mean, this session is for that, to evangelize for the importance of the user experience. What is the one challenge for the user experience people who are working in the field? What's the biggest challenge that you see for them, for the people who are working in this field?
I think the biggest challenge is it's hard to evangelize this because you can't see simplicity. So I think that's why it's not popular also in the Arab world, because it's not like, for example, standard compliant code that people used to evangelize before, that use standard compliant code. You can see standard compliant code, you can validate it, but when it comes to simplicity, it's not seen. People judge the layout by how pretty it is. So I think that's the biggest challenge. Was for me personally, when I tell them that this will make your product easier to use. They like the idea, but they don't want to invest in it because I don't know why. Maybe because someone else, no one else is doing it. But yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. There's nothing that you can show them. You can't compare between two products. If this is, look, this is easy and this is not easy, for example. I mean, for someone who doesn't know much about this field. I hope this answers your question. We can talk about it later.
Mashhoor, thank you very much for the introduction. I have a little question for you regarding user interfaces for platforms such as mobiles.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the graphics are the main part? I come as a graphic designer, and sometimes even with the best user interfaces, if the graphic design, sometimes some applications have great graphic design and bad UI. So how would you balance it? Because sometimes rich graphics just kill the application.
Yeah.
Or they just kill the user experience.
Do you develop on the iPhone?
On any mobile or any platform, sometimes graphics just kill the UI. So what do you suggest in maintaining like a stability or a level where an application functionality doesn't get limited by design and user experience doesn't limit design at the same time? What's the best solution for this?
Well, I'd say first is the Apple's graphical user interface guide. They have a guide. So I'd recommend that you read that for any mobile developer, whether you're developing for Android or anything else. Because they teach you stuff about developing touch-based interfaces. And another thing, test your application. You have to test it and see if it works well with people or not. And just don't use graphics if they don't have any meaning. Just don't try to use something just because it's pretty. For example, you can utilize graphics to guide the experience. You could use the yellow color, for example, to display notices. You can use the red color to display errors. Just use it so that it guides the experience, doesn't get in the way. So I hope that answers your question.
Just to add to your answer, actually, the pyramid that he showed just a moment ago, that's your priority list, basically. So go through it one by one. And as you can see, creativity and like how beautiful the design is the last step that you add to the application after everything else has been solidified.
I think this job is under the title UI developer, which most of our companies in the Middle East misses this title and pretending that they are cutting the cost of development. So how can I, as a development manager, hiring my team, how can I overcome this with the business owners? I need UI system developer, okay, because it is a long-term investment. How can I overcome this?
First, I think you're talking about a different job because some companies refer to a UI developer as someone who codes the interface, not someone who works on improving user experience. Personally, in my company, I work with the business analyst to ensure that the requirements, are suitable for the users. I work with the developers to ensure that they have, some sort of guide to follow. I work with the QA, quality assurance, to ensure that everything being developed is as simple as possible. I work with the clients as well to see their input. I don't take their input as is. I just observe their usage and try to get insights from them. So I'm not sure. I think we're talking about different things. So I'm not sure if I can help you with this. Is this the same?
I think you are UI developer is the one who is not artwork and is not a developer. He's in between. He has the user experience. He's creating the user action for the system. And after this, he recommends the screens, how it should interact with the customer, so that the customer, the developer can develop.
Okay. What is your question again?
The question, how can I persuade the business owners that it is a very important title to have in my team?
You could start with doing tests yourself, the tests I showed you, and just record them through video and let the user just use a mic. And if you read that book, Don't Make Me Think, it shows you exactly how to go through. Yeah, cool. So just do a test. This is what I did for one of the companies. I just recorded the session, the test session. I showed it to the owner. He was blown away. He thought, no way people think this way. So he started paying more attention, and he hired me eventually.
Okay, great. One more question right here.
I believe that user experience is rational. For example, I use Facebook and I see that it's easy, but my friends, my friends see that it's hard to use. So how can you satisfy all parts?
You can't do that, unfortunately.
So
you just have to design something that works at least, good enough for everyone, not satisfy a specific. You can do that, I think, unless your product targets a specific audience, like for example, doctors or designers, or that way you can ensure that it suits everyone. But like Facebook, it targets everyone, so you can't. There will be someone who's old, someone who's young, someone who's advanced, someone who's a beginner. So you can't really satisfy anyone.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mashhoor.
Thank you very much.